Hare Krishna. Somebody can please lead the invocation prayers.
Om Ajnana, Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakya Saksun Anmilata Yakova. Tasmai.
We cannot hear Uncle. Can somebody else please lead the invocation prayers?
Hare Krishna. Can I do?
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Saksurunmilittam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Ham Sri Guru Sri Yutapatakamallam Sri Guru Vaishnav Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Vitam Sa Jivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopika Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Risabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhaya Ivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So today we will cover Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 26, verses 33 to 72, and we'll finish this Chapter 26. Should be an easier class today, but let's see how it progresses. Let's begin with you all explaining one or more points and asking one or more questions.
Hare Krishna. What is the result of understanding Sankhya philosophy? Sankhya philosophy is the analytical study of matter and elements, which is the study of material energy. This philosophy is especially meant for persons conditioned by the material world. By understanding the science of devotional service in Sankhya philosophy, one becomes free from modes of material nature and becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. Even with the tinge of desire to enjoy material nature, one is not free from the influence of material mode. One is engrossed with material nature for a long time. For our smooth execution of devotional service, one should understand Sankhya Tattva. What are the components and and how it influences the body. Jiva understands this by one science by which the need for devotional service. 2. Jiva also understands about Supreme Personality of Godhead, the process of devotional service. They know by knowing the package, then naturally the Jiva gets liberated. Hare Krishna. This is my understanding, Prabhu, limited understanding.
Okay, very good detailed answer. What else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna.
We also learned about what is Pradhan and Prakriti. So Pradhan is basically the subtle, undifferentiated total of all the material elements. And when they get manifested by the interaction of the three modes, that is what is known as Prakriti, Prabhu.
Okay, very good. Correct point.
And Pradhan is the sum total of all the 24 elements, Prabhu. I think it will become too long if I explain all the 24 elements.
Okay, very good. Yeah, brief is fine.
What,
Yeah.
Prabhu?
Yeah, go ahead, Shalini.
Okay. So in this Pradhan, which is a sum total of 24 elements, 5 are the gross elements, which are the earth, water, fire, air, and ether. 5 are the subtle elements, smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. Then we have 10 senses, which are for acquiring knowledge, 5 for acquiring knowledge, and organs for the action. We have the auditory sense, sense of taste, tactile sense, sense of sight and smell. And the active organs are speaking, working, traveling, generating, and evacuating. Then we have 4 internal senses, which are subtle, which have 4 aspects, which are the mind, intelligence, ego, and contaminated consciousness. And the 25th element is time. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, very good.
And we also learned about the characteristic of Pradhan and Jiva, whereas that is Purusha is conscious of everything, past, present, and future, whereas Jiva, they know only past and present. They know only present, not past and future. And Kshetragyan of all living entities, whereas this is only of our body, and that too with
Yeah, very good.
partially.
Yeah, Jiva only knows present, not past, not future. And that too of own body only. While Super Soul knows past, present, and future in 100% and of all living entities. Okay, very good.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
Tato Mam Tattvato Gnatva. By understanding the science of devotional service in Sankhya philosophy, one can become free from spell of material nature and we can enter the kingdom of God.
Okay, very good. There's the bottom line goal that when you understand material nature, that's why Lord Kapila is explaining. Bottom line goal is that you become free from the entanglement of material nature. Okay, very good.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna.
I had one question. So, Prabhu, Brahman, whatever understanding I have is of Brahman in relation to Brahman effulgence. So, Brahman keeps coming here also, Saguna Brahman, Nirguna Brahman. So, exactly, can you explain what is Brahman when Brahman word comes?
So, Brahman, you have to understand with the context. So, there is Brahman effulgence, which is the lowest level of spiritual realization, and other places where Brahman is referred, it can also refer to individual spirit soul, that we are also Brahman, as in quality, that we are also spiritual. So you have to understand the word Brahman according to context. So whatever I will explain for where you are reading will be valid for this context only. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu. So there's no some specific meaning for Brahman. So it is in context of wherever it is referred to, Prabhu. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. So Brahman means spiritual.
Okay.
And so that's the proper meaning. But what is the context changes is that when it's referring to Brahman effulgence, it's referring to Brahman effulgence as the lowest realization. And some places Brahman is referring to the individual soul, or some places Brahman just refers to absolute truth in general. So it depends on how in the context the word Brahman is used. But Brahman essentially means spiritual.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, very good inquiry. Rest of you, questions, comments, realizations? Shivangi?
Krishna Prabhuji, the point that stuck out to me last time is that while we're still conditioned souls, it's important to study the Shrishti Leela more than the more confidential 10th canto pastimes, because that'll help us just better understand Krishna.
Yeah.
That's what stuck on me last time.
Okay, very good. Correct point that yes, in the neophyte stage, we first need to study Srishti Leela and the first 9 cantos to understand who Krishna is. What is his relationship with individual souls and Prakriti and his energies. And canto 10 can only be relished when you are in bhava and prema. Does not mean you have to not listen at all. Yes, you can listen from those devotees who are in bhava and prema, because they will share their realization. But for our own reading, we first need to understand the first 9 cantos. And before Bhagavatam, first understand Bhagavad Gita. Very good point, Shivangi.
Prabhuji, but even then, sometimes when you listen, because I used to, before we started the Bhakti Vriksha classes, like you just can't understand, because the person who's speaking, they just have realized more and
Correct.
they're explaining it. But if you just don't understand, like you're just not in that understanding, like it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. And I have given the example that if you explain calculus to grade 1 math student, he will have 2 reactions. One of the 2 reactions, that either he will go, wow, what is this? He's not understanding. He's just in awe and reverence. Or he will say, I don't understand. So you are absolutely correct that yes, the speaker is speaking correctly because he has that elevated realization. But I am in grade 1 math class, so I have to only absorb what I can absorb. And I have to go back to basics. So it's okay to still listen to those classes because you are still getting benefit. But in terms of understanding, yes, it will take time. And we have also discussed in Bhagavad Gita at the very start that when you hear spiritual topics, you have to categorize them in 4 categories. That some you will understand immediately, some after a little deliberation, some after a very long time, and some you will not understand at all. So you have to categorize and not get bogged down on those. Just continue and wait for more purification, and then it will get realized.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, for the time being, I just like listening to the classes that you take and whatever you give us to listen to. I feel that's good enough for now.
Yeah, because I am talking at basic level, because I am at basic level. So, and I'm giving you Prabhupada lectures that I give you very relevant to what we are discussing. Therefore, you kind of relate to what we are discussing. If I give you random Prabhupada lectures, you'll go, but I don't know what he's talking about. Well, he's talking right, but we don't have the context for that lecture to discuss, then that Prabhupada lecture will not give you enough benefit. Yes, Prabhupada lectures are transcendental, but we need the context. Therefore, when I give you lectures to listen to, say, even when last couple of weeks when we had to skip, I did not give you random lectures. I gave you relevant. So before giving you lecture, I actually listened to 3 or 4 lectures to determine what is more appropriate in the context of what discussions are going on with us. So therefore you are able to relate because we are having the similar conversation going on.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Very good. Observation. So we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita that we need to observe ourselves. So Shivangi is not just listening for the sake of listening, but she's like kind of paying close attention. So that's very good. That's super excellent. Any last questions, comments, realizations?
Ramaji, I used to wonder when you used to share Prabhupada's lecture. And I used to feel this is reinforcing or for better learning technique.
Yeah.
And today's narrative of yours, all the more confirms that. Thank you.
Yeah, you are correct. Okay, very good. Oh, okay. So our today's discussion is also a little technical discussion. Some of it we have discussed earlier in the creation discussion, and we'll see how it goes. You can ask questions. So today we will not be reading any purports for a special reason, because the homework that I'm going to give you, I am not discussing those points. So I'm taking you out of your comfort zone. Normally, I discuss a lot of things and I give you homework question that generally are discussed in class. But today's homework question, deliberately, I am not reading, we will not read those purports and we will not discuss those points. Those purports are going to be your homework, and you will realize, I mean, they're pretty straightforward. It's not that there is something to be worried about it. It's just that I'm taking you out of your comfort zone, that now you try to read by yourself and understand what Bhagavatam is also saying. Again, taking baby steps in a particular direction. Everybody okay with the plan?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So the context and the recap is that in terms of where we are, in this chapter 26, Lord Kapila will explain the manifestation and characteristics of various elements such as Mahat Tattva, universal form, composed of the elements, and universal form being brought to life by entrance of the Lord. Some of it we started discussing at our last class in terms of the characteristics of the few elements. In this chapter 26, Lord Kapila will explain different principles about material nature, the Bhakti Mishra Yoga, the Bhakti Mishra Jnana, and after doing comparison, he will establish the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. Since we all are engrossed with material nature for a long time, at least I am engrossed with material nature for a long time, for our smooth execution of devotional service, we should also understand material nature, because we are situated on the platform of this external energy, the material nature, for a long time. This is Sankhya Tattva. That what is nature of the material world? What are components of material energy? What is their nature? How they act upon conditioned souls? All this is known as the study of Sankhya Tattva. By understanding Sankhya, the Jiva knows about the Lord. Jiva knows about the process of devotional service. Jiva knows about the inferior and material nature energy. That way, Jiva knows the whole package. So we are in part 3, verses 9 to 49. We discussed some portion last time. The title of the part 3 is Characteristics of Pradhan, Time, Mahat Tattva, and other elements. So we have discussed until verse 32 last time, and we'll continue from 33 onwards. Verse 33 is on sound. Shivangi, 33 translation.
Hare Krishna. Persons who are learned and who have true knowledge define sound as that which conveys the idea of an object, indicates the presence of a speaker, screened from our view, and constitutes the subtle form of ether.
So I should actually have this visual on screen. So if you recall this visual from our Canto 3, Chapter 5 creation discussion, that there was Karnodaksha Vishnu, then Kala and Jiva, then from there the Pradhan is agitated, the three more, then Mat Tattva, Ahankar, then Ahankar is mixed with goodness, passion, ignorance, and various items are manifested. So on the bottom right side, you have this five great elements and their subtle elements. So what we just read in verse 33 talks about the sound and ether. That sound is the subtle element of ether. And the verses, all the other verses, will follow these same points as we go along. Mother Jija, verse 34 translation. So verse 34 is on ether.
Text 34. Translation. The activities and characteristics of the eternal element can be observed as accommodation for the room for the eternal and internal existence of all living entities, namely the field of activities of the vital air, the senses, and the mind. Hare Krishna.
I will read the translation again. The activities and characteristics of the ethereal element can be observed as the accommodation of room for the external and internal existence of all living entities, namely the field of activities of the vital airs, the senses, and the mind. So it basically talks about ether, that this is the space for the living entities externally and internally, and acts as the base for prana, the senses, and the mind. So ask questions as we go along. These verses will run very fast because each verse is talking about one element. Now verses 35 and 36 talk about touch. So understand, like 33 and 34 verse were related to sound and ether. Similarly, then you will have verses for touch and air and form and fire. All the way it will follow that same process. Shalini, 35, 36 translation.
Hare Krishna. Text 35. From ethereal existence, which evolves from sound, the next transformation takes place under the impulse of time, and thus the subtle element touch and thence the air and sense of touch become prominent. Text 36. Softness and hardness and cold and heat are the distinguishing attributes of touch, which is characterized as a subtle form of air.
So pretty straightforward once you understand what is going on. Their characteristics of each of the elements is described in all these verses that we are reading. And now verse number 37 obviously is about the air. Mata Chandra aunty.
Text 37. The action of the air is exhibited in movements, mixing, allowing approach to the object of sound and other sense perceptions, and providing for the proper functioning of all other senses.
So moving, mixing, leading the sense objects to the senses, and giving life to the senses, all these are characteristics of air. Okay, 38, 39 is on form. Uncle, 38, 39 translations.
Hare Krishna. Text 38. By interactions of the air and the sensation of touch, one receives different forms according to destiny. By evolution of such forms, there is fire, and the eye sees different forms in color. Text 39. My dear mother, the characteristics of form are understood by dimension, quality, and individuality. The form of fire is appreciated by its effulgence. Hare Krishna.
So, the Tanmatra of fire is described the form. It allows understanding of dimensions, quality, and individuality. Then in the next verse, 40, fire is described. Dipanshu Prabhu, 40 translation.
Hare Krishna. Fire is appreciated by its light and by its ability to cook, to digest, to destroy cold, to evaporate, and to give to hunger, thirst, eating and drinking. Hare Krishna.
All these are characteristics of fire, like illumination, ability to cook, to digest, to destroy cold, to evaporate, to give rise to hunger, thirst, eating, drinking. We all know all of this. Now 41 and 42 is on taste. Chandran Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Text 41. By the interaction of fire and the visual sensation, the subtle element taste evolves. Under a superior from taste, water is produced, and the tongue, which perceives taste, is also manifested. Text 42. Although originally one taste becomes manifold as astringent, sweet, bitter, pungent, sour, and salty due to contact with other substances.
So taste is the Tanmatra of water, and although it is one, but the taste becomes manifold, such as astringent, sweet, bitter, pungent, sour, and salty by mixing of other elements. And 43 is, of course, about water. Gopal Prabhu, 43.
Hare Krishna. Text 43 translation. The characteristics of water are exhibited by its moistening other substances, coagulating various mixtures, causing satisfaction, maintaining life, softening things, driving away heat, incessantly supplying itself to reservoirs of water, and refreshing by slacking thirst. Hare Krishna.
Again, pretty straightforward that characteristics are described about moistening, causing satisfaction, then giving life, relieving thirst, softening or extinguishing heat, and being plentiful. Now 44, 45 is on smell, the Tanmatra of earth. Shivangi.
Hare Krishna. Due to the interaction of water with the taste perception, the subtle element odor evolves under superior arrangement. Then the earth and the olfactory sense, by which we can variously experience the aroma of the earth, become manifest. Odor, although one, becomes many as mixed, offensive, fragrant, mild, strong, acidic, and so on, according to the proportions of associated substances.
So smell is the Tanmatra of earth, and although like taste, smell is also one, but becomes many as it is mixed and becomes either foul or fragrant or mild, strong, acidic, according to the substances it associates with. Shalini, 46.
Hare Krishna. The characteristics of the functions of earth can be perceived by modeling forms of the Supreme Brahman, by constructing places of residence, by preparing pots to contain water, etc. In other words, the earth is the place of sustenance for all the elements. Hare Krishna.
So pretty straightforward again, that it's a place of sustenance for all living beings. Now, 47 to 49 gives kind of a summary of many of the subtle forms of these great elements. Gopal Prabhu, 47 to 49 translation, and I will then explain with an example.
Hare Krishna, text 47. The sense whose object of perception is sound is called the auditory sense, and that whose object of perception is touch is called the tactile sense. Text 48. The sense whose object of perception is form. The distinctive characteristics of fire is the sense of sight. The sense whose object of perception is taste. The distinctive characteristics of water is known as the sense of taste. Finally, the sense whose object of perception is odor. The distinctive characteristics of earth is called the sense of smell. Text 49. Since the cause exists in its effect as well, the characteristics of the former are observed in the later. That is why the peculiarities of all the elements exist in the earth alone. Hare Krishna.
So, although simple read of these three verses, it seems like I don't understand what they are talking about. But actually, verse number 49 clarifies. And what it does is, what these three verses are explaining is, follow from the screen, that first sound was manifested. From sound, ether was manifested. From ether, the subtle element of touch was manifested. And from touch, air was manifested. So when air is manifested, air has both these subtle elements of touch and sound. Then from air, form is manifested, and from form, fire is manifested. So fire has the subtle forms of all three above, which is sound, touch, form. And this cycle continues to the next of taste and water, and then to smell and earth. So now if you read verse number 49 again, with what I just explained, should make sense, and we'll pause for questions, comments. Gopal Prabhu, 49 again.
Hare Krishna. Since the cause exists in its effect as well, the characteristics of the former are observed in the later. That is why the peculiarities of all the elements exist in the earth alone. Hare
Right?
Krishna.
So the characteristics of the former are observed in the later, because say from taste, water came, and from water, smell came, from smell, earth. So because earth is the last, so earth has everything within it. Everybody on the same page? Does that make sense now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Questions, comments, realizations? Silence. I got silence. The verses went pretty fast, so I'm just pausing for a quick.
Prabhuji, sound, touch, the arrow is distinct, whereas form, taste, and smell, the arrow is not distinct.
No, it's
And,
just that no, it's the same arrow. It's just
okay.
that, it's just that the print.
Okay. So my understanding is sound, touch, form ends with fire, correct?
So fire includes form, touch, and sound.
Okay, I got it.
Rest of you, everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhu.
Silence. Some more, rest of you.
Yes, noted, Prabhuji.
Okay. Now, part 4 is verses 50 to 53. Title is Karya Shrishti. Now, these are pretty straightforward verses. In fact, all the verses are pretty straightforward. So all these elements, so you saw all this creation happen. All these elements were sitting in unmixed state. That Mahatattva was by itself. Yes, Ahankar was by itself. And after Ahankar was mixed with goodness, yes, these manifested. But still, the three modes were also there in unmixed. All these ether, all these 5 elements, they were all unmixed. All these senses, mind, all these were sitting in unmixed state. So just as, say, you go in a car assembly plant, and before the car is assembled, they will gather all the parts required in a close proximity to each other. That way, all these elements individually manifested, they were just sitting there by themselves and not really doing anything. Then the Lord enters the universe, resulting in all these elements becoming active and getting mixed. And that's how creation started. And that's what this verse is, these verse in part 4 is talking about the Srishti, creation. Is our dear Aditi able to read 50 to 53 translations, chapter 26?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I would read on our behalf, Prabhu.
Yeah.
When all these elements were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of creation, along with time, work, and the qualities of the modes of material nature, entered into the universe with a total material energy in 7 divisions. 51. From these 7 principles, roused into activity and united by the presence of the Lord, an unintelligent egg arose, from which appeared the celebrated cosmic being. 52. This universal egg, or the universe in the shape of an egg, is called the manifestation of material energy. Its layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahat Tattva increase in thickness one after another. Each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous one, and the final outside layer is covered by Pradhan. Within this egg is the universal form of Lord Hari, of whose body the 14 planetary systems are parts. 53. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Virat Purusha, situated himself in that golden egg which was lying on the water, and he divided it into many departments. Shall I go ahead with 54 as well, Prabhu?
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
So what happened, as I described, that all these elements were unmixed. And then the Supreme Lord entered the universe along with Kala and Karma and Gunas of all the Jivas. And an unintelligent egg arose. Now, I want everybody to go to verse number 52 and understand the first line. What does it say? This universal egg, or the universe in the shape of an egg. So normally we know in the material world that say birds, they take birth from an egg. For the universe, the egg itself became the universe. Therefore, it's very important to understand that yes, it says the egg, but it's not that there was some shell and from that shell something else came out as the universe. No. The universe, the egg in the egg shape, yes, it was the egg that itself became the universe. The egg itself became the universe. And when we had seen in our Bhagavad Gita study, the universal form visual and 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional, we have also discussed about the layers on top of each universe, that each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous layer. So the layers on the universe are water, air, fire, sky, ego, Mahatattva. And the layers or the thickness of those layers increases 10 times after each layer's thickness. Everybody with me? Questions, comments, realizations? Silence, pretty technical. I got real silence today.
Kindly make it further. I understand the layers 10 times bigger the thickness. Which layer it is 10 times bigger? Would you please elaborate?
Yeah, it's given in verse number 52. It says the layers are water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva. They increase in thickness one after the other.
Got it. Thank you.
The rest of you, I don't know what silence means. Real silence. Okay. So now is part 5, verses 54 to 61. Title is Creation of Various Limbs of Virat Rupa, of universal form. So now the various limbs of universal form get manifested. So just as creation, we had the rule that for each next item, three items are required. That is Karnodaksha, Vishnu's glance, Kala, and Mahatattva. Similarly, for the manifestation of universal form, the rule is that from Lord's gross sense organ, the universal form's subtle sense organ plus the sense devta get manifested. So all these verses will again run pretty quickly because they are just explaining one item being manifested from which gross sense and which demigod is getting manifested. Gopal Prabhu, verse 54.
Hare Krishna, text 54. First of all, your mouth appeared in him, and then came from the organ of speech, and with it the god of fire, the deity who presides over that organ. Then a pair of nostrils appeared, and in them appeared the olfactory sense as well as prana, the vital air. Hare Krishna.
So from two gross senses are explained here. That first from mouth of the Lord, the speech as the subtle sense organ got manifested, and the sense devta is fire god. And similarly, from nostrils, olfactory sense got manifested, and the wind god is the sense devta for this part. Similarly, all these verses will explain these items one after the other as the senses of the universal form getting manifested like this. Chandran Prabhu, 55.
Hare Krishna. Text 55. In the wake of the olfactory sense came the wind god, who presides over the sense. Thereafter, a pair of eyes appeared in the universal form, and in them the sense of sight. In the wake of this sense came the sun god, who presides over it. Next, there appeared in him a pair of ears, and in them the auditory sense, and in its wake the Devatas, or the deities who presides over the directions.
So in verse 55, the eyes and ears are explained that from eyes, the sense of sight got manifested as the subtle sense, and sense Devata is sun god. And from ears as the gross sense organ of the Lord, the auditory subtle sense organ is manifested, and Dig Devta is the demigod. Everybody with me so far? Questions, comments, realizations?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Dipanshu Prabhu, 56.
Hare Krishna. Then the universal form of the Lord, the Virat Purusha, manifested his skin, and thereupon the hair, mustache, and beard appeared. After this, all the herbs and drugs became manifested, and then his genitals also appeared. Hare Krishna.
So first from the skin, then the hair, the mustache, and the beard got manifested, and the sense of touch, and the sense Devta is, and the herbs, the Devta of the skin is also manifested, and then the genitals are also manifested, and this will continue in the next verse also. Dipanshu Prabhu, continue 57.
After this, semen, the faculty of procreation, and the god who presides over the waters appeared. Next appeared an anus, and then the organs of defecation, and thereupon the god of death, who is feared throughout the universe.
So in 57, the genitals and the anus are described, that from genitals, the semen got manifested, and the deity of water is the sense Devta. And then from anus, sense organ, the organs of defecation got manifested, and the sense Devta is death, which will get covered as we go along. Okay, Uncle, 58.
Hare Krishna, text 58. Thereafter, the two hands of the universal form of the Lord became manifested, and with them, the power of grasping and dropping things. And after that, Lord Indra appeared. Next, the legs became manifested, and with them, the process of movement. And after that, Lord Vishnu appeared. Hare Krishna.
So, verse 58, hands and legs are described, that from hands, the power of grasping and dropping things got manifested, as well as Indra is the sense Devata. And from legs, the process of movement has got manifested, and Vishnu is the sense Devata for this. Okay. Mother Chandra Aunty, 59.
take 59. The veins of the universal body became manifested, and thereafter the red corpuscles or blood. In their wake came the rivers, the deities presiding over the veins, and then appeared an abdomen. Hare Krishna.
So verse 59 explains about the veins, that from veins of the Lord, blood got manifested, and the sense devata is the rivers, the deities presiding over the veins. And abdomen is described briefly here and will continue in the subsequent verses. Mother Jija, 60 translation.
50, 60. Next grew feelings of hunger and thirst, and in their wake came the manifestation of the ocean. Then a heart became manifest, and in the wake of the heart, the mind appeared. Hare Krishna.
So verse number 60 further continues about abdomen, that from abdomen, the feeling of hunger and thirst got manifested, and the sense devata is ocean. And then from heart, the mind, intelligence, false ego, and consciousness got manifested. And the sense devata for each one is different. So for mind is Chandra, for intelligence is Lord Brahma, for false ego is Lord Shiva, and for consciousness is Lord Vasudeva. Questions, comments, realizations, again pretty technical verses in terms of what is getting manifested from which part of the body. I have real silence. I don't know what that means.
Understood.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Understood, I mean, the overall Prabhu, but I think reading the purports will help further. Prabhu.
Yeah. I'm briefly describing. You are correct that there are some more technical details in the purports, but I'm just trying to explain in summary form. Many things may not be obvious from the purports, therefore I'm pausing and going slow and trying to explain. I mean, for these verses 54 to 61, you can actually make a chart. I could have given you that chart. I can also create another one and send it to you again. You can make a 3-column chart that you have first column as gross sense organ, then second is subtle sense organ, and then the third is the sense devata. And then it flows through for each of the verses. That if you go back to verse number 54, so it said mouth is the sense organ, then your second column speech is your subtle sense organ that get manifested, and the third column is sense devata, which is fire god that get manifested from the Lord's cross organ of mouth. But yes, you will anyway read all the purports, some of which I will give you as part of the homework. To understand that some of the purports are very, very short. For example, if you read 54, there's only one line in the purport. Basically, I'm describing what's in the purport. Shalini and everybody, Gopal, everybody.
Yes, Prabhu. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So 61, Kalyani, is Kalyani there?
She's in there, Prabhu. I will read on our behalf.
Yeah.
61. After the mind, the moon appeared, intelligence appeared next, and after intelligence, Lord Brahma appeared. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Shiva. And after the appearance of Lord Shiva came consciousness and the deity presiding over consciousness. Hare Krishna.
So I already explained verse 31 about how Chandra is the sense devata for mind. Lord Brahma is the sense devata for intelligence. Lord Shiva is the sense devata for false ego. And Lord Vasudeva is the sense devata for consciousness. Questions, comments, realizations on creation of the various limbs of the Virata Rupa? Okay. So part 6 is verses 62 to 72. Title is Demigods Attempt to Wake Up the Virat Purusha, but finally only Vasudeva is successful. Now when we read these verses, what we read in the previous part 5, verses 54 to 61, about how each sense devata got manifested from a particular organ of the Lord. So for example, we read in 54 that from mouth, the sense devata is fire god. And in 54, from nostrils, the sense devata is wind god. So what will happen is in the verses that we will read now in from 62 onwards, that the demigods tried to wake up the universal form, but they could not wake him up. So they went back from where they got manifested, meaning fire god entered back in the mouth because fire god was manifested from mouth. Then wind god entered back in the nostrils because wind god was manifested from nostrils. That way, each of these sense devatas, they entered back to the same sense organ from where they were manifested in the first place. Everybody with me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Shalini will read 62 to 69 translations.
Hare Krishna, text 62. When the demigods and presiding deities of the various senses were thus manifested, they wanted to wake their origin of appearance. But upon failing to do so, they re-entered the body of the Virat Rupa, one after another, in order to wake him. Text 63. The god of fire entered his mouth with the organ of speech, but the Virat Purusha could not be aroused. Then the god of wind entered his nostrils with the sense of smell, but still the Virat Purusha refused to be awakened. Text 64. The sun god entered the eyes of the Virat Purusha with the sense of sight, but still the Virat Purusha did not get up. Similarly, the predominating deities of the directions entered through his ears and with the sense of hearing, but still he did not get up. Text 65. The predominating deities of the skin, herbs, and seasonal plants entered the skin of the Virat Purusha with the hair of the body, but the cosmic being refused to get up even then. The god predominating over water entered his organ of generation with the faculty of procreation, but the Virat Purusha still would not rise. Text 66. The god of death entered his anus with the organ of defecation, but the Virat Purusha could not be spurred to activity. The god Indra entered the hands with their entered the hands with their power of grasping and dropping things, but the Virat Purusha would not get up even then. Text 67. Lord Vishnu entered his feet with the faculty of locomotion, but the Virat Purusha refused to stand up even then. The rivers entered his blood vessels with the blood and the power of circulation, but still the cosmic being could not be made to stir. Text 68. The ocean entered his abdomen with hunger and thirst, but the cosmic being refused to rise even then. The moon god entered his heart with the mind, but the cosmic being would not be roused. Text 69. Brahma also entered his heart with intelligence, but even then the cosmic being could not be prevailed upon to get up. Lord Rudra also entered his heart with the ego, but even then the cosmic being did not stir. Hare Krishna.
So it's literally like you try to fold and unfold few things. So verses 54 to 61 was all unfolding one after the other. And now from 62 onwards, everything is going backwards in that same order, just as they got manifested from their respective gross sense organ. Everybody with me? Everybody follows what we discussed when read?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu.
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I seek one clarification. Text 67. Lord Vishnu entered his feet with the faculty of locomotion, but the Virat Purusha refused to stand up even then. There is this is what I am not able to understand. Lord Vishnu is the Virat Purusha, isn't it?
Lord Vishnu is not the Virat Purusha. So I have described, I can show you a visual. Where will I find that visual? So Lord Vishnu is not the Virat Purusha. Let me find the visual and it will be easier to discuss. Otherwise, I will be just talking and talking. Let me find the visual. Bear with me, I'm just trying to find. Yeah. Okay, I will share my screen now. So I've shown this to you before, that from Lord Krishna comes Lord Balram. From Lord Balram comes the first quadruple expansion of first Vasudev, first Sankarshan, first Pradyumna, first Anirudh. From first Sankarshan comes Lord Narayan. From Lord Narayan comes the second quadruple expansion of second Vasudev, second Sankarshan, second Pradyumna, second Anirudh. From second Sankarshan comes Mahavishnu or Karnodakshai Vishnu. And from Karnodakshai Vishnu comes Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And from Garbhodakshai Vishnu comes Paramatma. So the universal form is manifested from Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Mahavishnu is not universal form. So Garbhodakshai Vishnu is from whom the universal form is manifested. So there is these three Vishnus, and besides these, there is also the universal form, which is only for material world, and there is a universal form for each material universe. So I have described earlier also that all these bubbles that you see coming out from Mahavishnu, they are each 14 planetary systems, each universe, and each such bubble has a universal form of itself, which is manifested and annihilated with each universe. Does that help you, Uncle?
Yes, please. Thank you. Very elaborate. And I have taken snapshot of this.
Okay, very good. Everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so the last 3 verses we'll read. And we'll read last verse purport. It gives a summary of everything. So let's first read 70 to 72 translations only. Uncle will read 70 to 72 translations only.
Hare Krishna, text 70. However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with the reason, at that very moment, the cosmic beings arose from the causal waters. Text 71. When a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, the mind, and the intelligence, cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the super soul helps him. Text 72. Therefore, through devotion, detachment and advancement in spiritual knowledge acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate that super soul as present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it. Hare Krishna.
So only when the inner controller, meaning the controller of consciousness, entered, meaning the super soul, that's when the universal form arose. So it's in the purport you'll read, it's referring to as when Vasudeva entered the universal form, that's when the universal form woke up. Verse number 72 purport has kind of a summary of lot of details. Let's read. Gopal Prabhu, 72 purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 72 purport. One can realize the super soul within oneself. He is within one's body, but apart from the body, or transcendental to the body. Although sitting in the same body as the individual soul, the super soul has no affection for the body, whereas the individual soul does. One has to detach himself, therefore, from this material body by discharging devotional service. It is clearly mentioned here, Bhaktya, that one has to execute devotional service to the Supreme. As it is stated in the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1.2.7, Vasudeva Bhagavate Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. When Vasudeva, the all-pervading Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is served in completely pure devotion, detachment from the material world immediately begins. The purpose of Sankhya is to detach oneself from material contamination. This can be achieved simply by devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one is detached from the attraction of material prosperity, one can actually concentrate his mind upon the Super Soul. As long as the mind is distracted towards the material, there is no possibility of concentrating one's mind and intelligence upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his partial representation. Super Soul, in other words, One cannot concentrate one's mind and energy upon the Supreme unless one is detached from the material world. Following detachment from the material world, one can actually attain transcendental knowledge of the absolute truth. As long as one is entangled in sense enjoyment or material enjoyment, it is not possible to understand the absolute truth. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.54. One who is freed from material contamination is joyful and can enter into devotional service, and by devotional service he can be liberated. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, it is stated that one becomes joyful by discharging devotional service. In that joyful attitude, one can understand the science of God or Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it is not possible. The analytical study of elements of the material nature and the concentration of the mind upon the supersoul are the sum and substance of the Sankhya philosophical system. The perfection of the Sankhya yoga culminates in devotional service unto the absolute truth. Hare Krishna.
The last two lines are essentially the essence of this entire chapter on Sankhya. That I will read that last line again. The analytical study of the elements of material nature and concentration of the mind upon the supersoul are the sum and substance of Sankhya philosophical system. Perfection of this Sankhya yoga culminates in devotional service unto the absolute truth. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
This
Krishna.
2 lines is an amazing summary of the whole chapter, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Exactly.
chapter and the purpose.
Yeah. Very good hearing with rapt attention.
Prabhuji, today's session, compared to the last week's session, it is more making you realize Sankhya Yoga.
Yeah.
And the last 2 lines, what you it is really the essence to be remembered and practiced. Thank you.
Yeah, very good hearing with rapt attention. Now, understand, as I said at the start of our class today, if we were to read all the purports, yes, we can, but we would have bogged down to reading the purports and then we would have lost focus. Therefore, the approach that I took was that I will explain, and the homework that I'm going to give you is going to actually force you to read the purports in detail. And therefore, I said that for this particular chapter, this particular class, I am deliberately not reading the purports. Now, visualize that we have roughly 15 minutes left. We were to read all the purports, or at least even some of them, including the 4 purports that I'm going to give you the homework for. We would have not been able to finish this discussion, and then you'll be bogged down. And therefore, Uncle correctly pointed out that today's discussion kind of solidified the discussion that we started last class. And the last line, everybody in 72 purport, everybody understood it to perfection. That the last line is kind of the essence of what we have been discussing since last class. Everybody okay with what we did in today's class?
Perfect, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Perfect.
Okay, homework questions. 5 homework questions. First, examine the role of doubt in intelligence. Comes from verse number 30. So I want to pause on the first question itself. Isn't the question very important? Did you want me to discuss this in class?
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, please repeat. Examine the role of
doubt. So examine the role of doubt in intelligence.
Okay.
So everybody, Answer me. Isn't this something you wanted to discuss in class?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So I'm deliberately not discussing those today. This will force you to read by yourself with rapt attention and contemplate on these questions. Because our bottom line is to remember Krishna. Similarly, all the questions that I'm going to give you today are very important questions. Definitely are discussion points in the class. I have deliberately not discussed. And we'll discuss in our following class when you deliberate throughout your week on these questions, because when you deliberate, you are basically remembering Krishna. My task is accomplished.
It is going to, in a way, train the mind to understand deeply. You read, you don't understand. Again, you read. Third time you read, your clarity begins. That is the purpose.
Yeah, very good. Correct. Question number 2. What is the potency of sound in regard to bondage and liberation? Again, very important question. Comes from verse number 32. Third, list some of the activities going on because of movements of the air. Comes from verse 37 and 38. Fourth, what is the significance of Lord Brahma's 4 heads? Comes from verse 52. And number 5 is for next class. Read Canto 3, Chapter 27. Everybody like the amazing questions?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Shalini had the anxious yes.
Yes.
Or a curious yes. All right. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 26th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. We still have about 10 minutes. Any questions, comments, realizations? Are we okay to stop here?
This chapter makes you to realize what is material nature itself in deep, in depth. Sorry.
Very good. Yeah, you are correct. Absolutely correct understanding, as the title of chapter says, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Very good. Are we okay to stop here?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, everybody.